So I wanted to talk about my process of how I go about thinking about a watercolor. I have been commissioned to do On the Road to Emmaus. And first thing I want to do is look up the account in the Bible and kind of read what Luke has to say. And behold, two of them went that same day to a village called Emmaus, which was from Jerusalem about 80 furlongs. And they talked together of all these things which had happened. And it came to pass that while they communed together and reasoned, Jesus himself drew near and went with them. But their eyes were holden, that they should not know him. And he said unto them, What manner of communication are these that ye have one to another, and ye walk and are sad? And one of them, whose name was Cleopas, answering, said unto him, Art thou only a stranger in Jerusalem, and hast not known the things which are come to pass there in these days? And he said unto them, What things? And they said unto him concerning Jesus of Nazareth, which was a prophet mighty in deed and word before God and all the people, and how the chief priests and our rulers delivered him to be condemned to death, and have crucified him. But we trusted that it had been he which should have redeemed Israel, and besides all this, today is the third day since these things were done. Yea, and certain women also of our company made us astonished, which were early at the sepulchre. And when they found not his body, they came, saying that they had also seen a vision of angels, which said that he was alive. And certain of them which were with us went to the sepulchre, and found it even so as the women had said, but him they saw not. Then he said unto them, O fools and slow of heart to believe all that the prophets have spoken. Ought not Christ to have suffered these things and to enter into his glory? And beginning at Moses and all the prophets, he expounded unto them in all the scriptures the things concerning himself. And they drew nigh unto the village whither they went, and he made as though he would have gone further. But they constrained him, saying, Abide with us, for it is towards evening, and the day is far spent. And he went in to tarry with them. And it came to pass, as he sat at meat with them, he took bread, and blessed it, and brake, and gave to them. And their eyes were opened, and they knew him, and he vanished out of their sight. So there's the account in Luke. So I have to kind of enter the scene. I have to enter the picture that I'm painting. I have to think about a few things. So they're walking, and so I remember when my husband and I went to Israel and walking on some of those dirt roads, and the white dust and the white dirt that would get on my shoes and puff up around my feet as I walked. So you have the heat of the sun and the heat of that warm area that's coming down on them. I have to think about, well, what clothes were they wearing, and were they carrying satchels? And then it's drawing towards evening. So all these things I'm thinking about as I'm designing the drawing and getting ready to do the painting. And as I'm doing the trees in the background, I want to capture that kind of hot, dusty, deserty feel around Jerusalem. So I'm trying to make the green of evening shining, the sun shining through those trees in the background. So those are the physical things that I'm thinking about. The things that I've read, the things that I'm trying to picture myself in that kind of setting, and what I would see if I was there. But I also want to think about other things, the things that I can't see necessarily with my eyes. So I think Christ would be in the center, so that both men could be close to him. I think they would lean in towards him so that they could catch every word that he was saying. They feel something as they walk. Their hearts burn within them. But I want to capture even more than that. I want to capture the feeling. What would it be like to be walking on that road with Christ and listening to him open up the scriptures? Would I want to constrain him to stay with me? And do I want him to be a part of my life now? And what would I do to constrain him to stay with me, to abide with me? I love the song that talks about this occurrence, "Abide with me, 'tis eventide." I like the feeling of that song, and if I can bring that into this picture, that is what I want to do. So I have to decide, how do I want to denote Christ in the center? Do I want to put that circle of light that surrounds his head that immediately would tell people that view the picture that that is Christ, where they may not know it otherwise? So these are a few of the things that I need to think about. I also need to think about design. The whole time I'm painting, I'm thinking about the design. The whole time I'm drawing, I'm thinking about the design. Where do I place the figures on the page? How many trees do I put in the background? How do I vary the edge of those trees? When I put the trunks of the trees on, I need to make sure that that is varied, that there's a variety of tree trunks and designs and a variety of lightness and darkness. How do I get the feeling of the sun shining through those trees in the background? You kind of have to picture the whole painting in your head as you're going along, because as you put down those first washes, they appear to be quite dark, and you have to think about, well, are they too dark? Because your eye is going to go where the darkest dark and the lightest light is. So you're kind of thinking about that in your head and in deciding, even though they look dark against the white of the watercolor paper, am I going to be able to bring in some other darks that will be darker than the trees in the background? And I'm trying to, I want to be careful. I love drips that go down the watercolor paper, but I want to make sure that they don't go anywhere that would cause permanent damage on the painting. I don't want any of those drips to come down through the center of the figure of Christ, because I want him to be wearing a white outfit. So I've got the trees in the background done, and it goes from a darker green over towards a reddish green. And now I want to bounce around and maybe come work on the figures a little. I don't want to finish one part of the painting and then go to the next, even though I have finished those trees. I want to make sure that I work on the entire painting at the same time, so that when I'm finished, it all kind of winds up at the same time. So now I think I'll start working on those figures a little and painting them and getting them in the way that I want them. So I'm thinking a little bit about color. How do I tie the color in? I want it to be kind of a muted color and that nothing stands out too much one way or the other, except for the value of the dark against Christ, and so that he is the most important thing in the painting. I also like that the tree trunks in the background are heading down towards Christ and the figures. The shadows of the figures, the sun shining and casting those long shadows, make a big difference. The thing that interested me in the text was constraining Christ to stay with us. And I guess the main thing to do, to have Christ kind of walk with us in our lives, is to try to read about him in the scriptures and try to follow his example of goodness and kindness and meekness, and sharing that with others around us. So the final touch was some real plants that were put down on top of the watercolor that added to the finishing touch. And I hope we will take those finishing touches and try to put them in our life, those finishing things that Christ shares with us.